from the campus of Westfield State University. This is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
We're now about to go.
Am I on, Pete? I'm back. Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Patrick Berry from the Westfield News. After a brief reprieve for about 5 weeks, I think it was, Pete, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
I think...
about
actually,
5 weeks.
Maybe even a little bit longer than that, because there was 1 week...
It was the 23rd of February.
Right, but the week before that was school vacation week, right? Or was that school vacation
Right, you
week?
took that week off. Yep.
Right.
So it's been 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a while. So, but
Mark Auerbach has been ably filling your spot.
And I can't thank Mr. Auerbach enough for jumping in and filling these 2 hours every week for the last 5 weeks or so. But, ladies and gentlemen, you're stuck with me again. It is 6:03 a.m. This is the Westfield News Radio Show. It's 34 degrees right now outside your door, getting up to a cloudy and rainy 53 today. As we head towards lunchtime, the percentage of rain increases. It'll rain this afternoon. Talking about 0.2 of an inch of rain this afternoon. It'll slow down a little bit overnight, and then about this time tomorrow morning, pick back up again. And then tomorrow is going to be 56 degrees. And then after tomorrow, it looks like we're going to have a really nice weekend.
The skies will magically clear for the Easter egg hunt for the mayor.
Exactly. So Saturday morning at South Middle, Pete?
Yes.
At South Middle?
Yeah, well, it's in the kiddie corner behind Boys and Girls Club and Amelia Park Children's Museum.
Gotcha. So the high temperature, and that's at 10:30.
The first going off, the little kids at 10:30, yes.
And that's a good point. There's multiple releases of youngins.
Yes.
10:30, 10:45, and 11 or something like that?
Toddlers up till 6 at 10:30, and then 6 to 10 at 11:30.
An hour break. Oh, all right.
Well, no, I mean, by the time everybody mills around, does their thing, and kind of goes out, that's about the right amount of time.
Gotcha. So Saturday's temperature, it's going to be sunny. It's going to be 58 degrees. It'll be cool when you get up in the morning in the mid to upper 30s. But by mid-morning, the sun is up. It's bright, so it'll be a nice morning down at South Middle School. Sunday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, Easter Sunday, whatever else you want to call it.
When does that happen? How often does that happen where April Fool's Day has coincided with Easter?
I have no idea.
I'd have to look. That one would be a nice almanac trivia question.
That's a Tina thing for you. That she does that almanac stuff. So Sunday's going to be 48 degrees, a little bit cooler. Monday, 52 degrees. And then the extended forecast into next Tuesday, Wednesday, looks to be in the mid-40s, cloudy, possible chance of rain and stuff. So, but the immediate forecast for the next day or so is not too shabby. It is 6:05 a.m. in the morning. We are now live for the first time in the Tiger's Pride restaurant down at the Westfield Technical Academy.
Correct.
We're gonna pick up doing the radio show, the Westfield News radio show, the Tiger Talk, and the Superintendent's Corner, all from here on Thursdays from this point forward. Correct, sir?
Right. Yeah.
Very good.
Until I get a space down the hall. And then we can use that space.
Right. So at 7:10, 7:20, 7:50, and periodically throughout the morning, you're going to hear bells, the bell for the classes.
You might even hear morning announcements.
You might hear morning announcements.
Although we usually talk through that.
Do we have to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance if we're on the radio?
I don't know. You probably should. It's good form. Although you can always take a break if you hear it coming up.
Yeah, we may have to do that. We may have to coordinate that.
We'll take if you hear them start morning announcements, take your break. We'll play a long song and we'll encompass all of that.
Very good.
I'm always thinking.
So here's what we've got for. This is going to be interesting because my iPad's not working, so we got to figure out. So what do we have for headlines in the Westfield News? Unfortunately, a couple of bad stories. There was a child rape case down in Southwick that we're working on, and there was a dead body found yesterday in Westfield on Bartlett Street. Go figure. And it's got nothing to do with my guest this morning, nor does it have to do with Easter Sunday. Boy, what a weird one that is.
Yeah.
Dead body near a church on Easter Sunday. Anyway, go figure. And then in Southwick.
They're going to run out of here screaming. You keep doing stuff like that.
The planning board has we've been covering the story about the marijuana zoning bylaw in Southwick.
They don't want it.
Exactly. So, and then the Southwick Select Board is reviewing the future police lieutenant's position.
Oh, okay.
So we've got that. So that, and there's a few other things going on. But again, my iPad, I'm having a tough time with the iPad here this morning, but we'll figure it out. So it's 6:07 a.m. and without further ado, we're gonna go to my guests. Two of them are with me now. A few of the others will be joining us shortly. They are from the Save St. Mary's High School group. Good morning. I have Dawn Erickson, and I have Liz Carrier.
Aaron.
Aaron Carrier. Why did I say Liz?
It's my middle name.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's funny because Pete will attest to this. Every once in a while, that happens to me. I have guests who I know regularly, and then I stump with them when
it's my email too, and you email me a lot.
Maybe that's
so
what it is.
So
we'll just give them the. So, I don't even have the buzzer turned up. Bummer.
Oh, ain't that a shame? So Dawn, and there you go, great. Dawn and Aaron are my guests this morning. Just tell us a little bit about what you do professionally and your involvement with St. Mary's. Dawn, I'm going to go to you first.
Okay. Professionally, I sell billboards. So I've been selling billboards at Lamar. Everyone can see the billboards across from Walmart and in town. I've been doing that 11 years. And then for the school, I'm just a volunteer. I volunteer, and I last year got chosen to run the school auction, and this year I'm running it again.
And
so
when is the auction?
The auction this year is Saturday, April 7th from 5 to 9.
So a week from Saturday.
Yes.
Right around the corner.
Yes. Yes. So we're very excited about it. And that's what I do. So I have 2 kids. I have a pre-kindergartner right now, Vivian. She loves it. She's a St. Mary's student. And then my other one will go to St. Mary's next year. She's 3, and she'll go to the preschool program next year.
Very good.
So we're very excited.
Very good. And Aaron?
So I am a public school educator. I've worked for the Agawam, Westfield, and now the Chicopee Public Schools. Began as an English teacher, 8th grade. Everyone's favorite. Read lots of short stories and poetry with kids who had no desire to read any of it. So it was always an entertaining factor. You got to keep them involved. Then I became a school administrator. I worked as a vice principal in a couple different towns, and then I was actually the principal here in Westfield at Fort Meadow Early Childhood Center, and now I am a vice principal in Chicopee at DuPont Middle School.
Very good, very good.
Yep. St. Mary's. Do you want to know how I'm involved
in
that?
Go ahead.
So St. Mary's, I'm a St. Mary's alumni. I attended 1990, which now everyone knows how old I am. So I attended for 12 years, went from first grade on. At the time, they didn't have kindergarten. My sister was in the first kindergarten class. She went straight through till 12th grade.
13 years.
13 years, yep. First group to be able to say that. My husband is a St. Mary's graduate. Yep. My mother-in-law is a St. Mary's graduate. My father went to Cathedral. I have 2 children. They both attend St. Mary's. One's in 4th grade and one's in 8th grade. So we are a St. Mary's and Catholic school family for sure.
Both of you very vested in St. Mary's of Westfield.
Yeah, most certainly.
100%.
I also serve on the Diocesan School Board, which advises the bishop. So I began doing that. Father Brian McGrath asked me to fill a position on that board probably 6 years ago.
Okay.
So I was appointed to that, and that is a group representing different parishes around the diocese that meets, as I said, and advises the bishop. We meet with the superintendent of the diocesan schools and look at policy for the larger Catholic school body across Western Mass. And occasionally we meet with the bishop directly on matters. And after I'd been on that board for 2 years, Father Brian asked me to join the St. Mary's School Board. So I began serving on that also. We felt at the time it was good to have me on both so that I could be talking to St. Mary's and representing St. Mary's better to the larger diocesan group. after being on that for a couple of years, I was asked to fill the role of chair. So I am now president of the St. Mary's School Board.
Good for you. Be careful what you wish for, right?
Yes. Yeah, I had no idea when Father Brian asked me to go to a couple meetings what it was going to turn into.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you a little bit about the difference between the diocese-run schools, diocesan-run schools, and parish-run schools. So what's the basic difference between the two?
All right, so there's a kind of two systems running at the same time. We have parish schools that, like St. Mary's 100 years ago, were set up by a parish and that are run by members of the parish, the pastor being ultimately responsible. And then in some areas, larger cities, we had schools that were formed and combined possibly. We had some closings, 50 years ago even, where they were combining schools, and they weren't related necessarily anymore to a single parish and a single pastor, and you had a group of pastors sending students to one location, and that became a diocesan school. The largest diocesan school was Cathedral. So in Springfield, there wasn't one pastor who was responsible for Cathedral High School. That was formed actually not that long ago. Cathedral's a fairly recent school if you look at Catholic schools. We were 120 years old. It's probably only about 60 years old or so.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, maybe even a little bit less. So you had these schools that were, like I said, larger in nature, more regional in nature, I guess you would say, and they became diocesan schools. All schools are really under the diocesan school board and the superintendent, in theory, in order to be recognized as a Catholic school.
Not the Westfield or the individual town superintendents, the diocesan
superintendent.
Okay.
When I say that, Sister Andrea is currently, she's retiring, but currently Sister Andrea. They report for certain things. So your program, what you're going to be teaching, how you're going to be teaching, your minutes, all sorts of educational information is still governed, if you want to be a Catholic school, by Sister Andrea and the Diocesan School Board in that central office. Other matters, though, ultimately, if you're a parish school, revert back to your pastor. Finances being the key one.
Right. So based on that description, it sounds like historically all the schools were parish schools, and then they sort of, depending on changes in geography, changes in life, that how things work, then some schools became diocesan schools.
For the most part, I would say that the Holyoke Catholic and the cathedrals, those were always formed as non-related to a parish.
A specific, okay.
Yep, those were always set up, and they were set to be that way to draw from that larger containment area.
So now St. Mary's specifically here in Westfield is currently a parish school.
Correct.
Is it one of those, 120 years ago was a parish school, went to a diocesan school, and back to a parish school?
Always stayed a parish school.
It's always been a parish school.
Always been a parish school.
See, I thought it had switched to be a parish school maybe 25 years ago or something.
Always been a parish school.
Oh, interesting.
Always been a parish school. Mm-hmm.
So because it's always been a parish school, that means even though St. Mary's is a part of the greater Springfield diocese.
Yep. I know it's a tricky word. You're going to say it wrong a dozen times.
Diocese,
diocesan, diocese. It's
That's
a mess.
No, I'm not going to go there. Anyway, it's always been run by the local people here in Westfield.
Yes.
Whether it was, I remember Father Tony Crean, from 30, 40 years ago, and all the people prior to him and since him. But it's always been run by the pastor who oversaw St. Mary's Parish in Westfield.
Yes.
And then under that, you have different boards and commissions that do different things. And what are those boards and commissions here in Westfield?
So the St. Mary's Parish has 3 boards. We have a pastoral council, which looks at the mission of the church in our community.
Okay.
So they are
from
looking
a religious standpoint.
From a religious standpoint. Okay. We have a parish finance council, which is very obvious. They are looking at the finances of our parish because that is part of being a church. Mm-hmm. And we have a parish school board.
Okay. So now, of those 3 groups, those 3 independent groups, how empowered are they within the St. Mary's Parish for decision making, or are they more of advisory roles to the pastor who currently is Father Frank Lawler?
All boards in the Catholic Church are advisory.
Okay.
Whether it's a diocesan school board, whether it's a parish school board, parish finance council, in canon law, going way back, it's all advisory.
Okay.
So we are simply advisors. So different pastors can treat their councils as they want. They can draw more information. Some pastors may really want to use it as a voting group. Okay, what do you all think? Let's take a vote, and can go with that. Some pastors can say, you know what, I'm going to do what I want, and I'm not going to talk about it.
Right.
They can set that tone. So you have a variety across the diocese of styles.
Is that just the Springfield diocese, or is that religion or Catholic schools across the country, across the globe? Are they set up that way?
It should be across the country and across the globe, because it really is based on canon law. So how those boards are formed, et cetera, is really, kind of straightforward. You have to have boards. You have to have these advisory groups. They're required. But again, how much advice you take from them
right,
is
how much the local
how much
pastor.
You want. Yeah.
Right, gotcha.
Yep.
It is 6:17 in the morning. You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show. Dawn and Aaron from Save St. Mary's High School are my guests this morning. A few others are going to be joining us shortly. We're going to take our first break as we creep up on 6:18. Take a little musical break. Thanks some of our underwriters. We'll be right back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore at Westfield State University, right here in the Ely Campus Center. Whether you're a student, faculty member, or friend of the university, it's the place to shop. Everything from Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise to all of your academic needs. Offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Visit the bookstore on campus or online at www.westfieldstate.bncollege.com. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Commercial Distributing Company of Westfield. Now in its third generation of family ownership, Commercial is one of the premier beverage distributors of Western Massachusetts. The Plasek family and the staff of Commercial Distributing wishes you good times throughout the year and urges you to drink responsibly. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Barry.
Good morning again, everybody. 6:23 a.m., 33 degrees outside your door, cloudy. Going to be rainy this afternoon, getting up to 53 today. Tomorrow, roughly the same temperature, although it's going to start as cloudy and rainy and get better as the day goes on. So that's your lay of the land for the next 2 days' weather. As we head into the weekend, it looks like it's going to be an absolutely beautiful weekend. Saturday is the end of March. If sunny, 58 degrees. Sunday, April 1st, Easter Sunday, sunny and 48 degrees. And it looks like we start the work and school week next week, Monday, April 2nd, with some partly cloudy skies and 52 degrees, so not too shabby. Taking a quick check of the headlines that you'll read both in print later today and up online at the westfieldnews.com. A child rape case is making its way to Superior Court. An incident that took place in Southwick last summer. This one is actually kind of comical. A guy tried to buy some pot, and the guy didn't give him his marijuana, so he called the cops. And hey, marijuana's legal now, but not really. So that's a good story there. The Southwick Planning Board approves a I can't speak this morning. Planning Board approves a marijuana zoning bylaw, and then the Southwick Select Board is also reviewing the lieutenant's position for the Southwick Police Department. So we've got that and a ton of other stuff coming up. It's 6:24 a.m. Thursday, March 29th. Aaron Carrier and Dawn Erickson are my guests this morning. Good morning. We're talking Save St. Mary's High School, and that's actually there's a lot of people in Westfield who I think it's Save St. Mary's, meaning the elementary, preschool, high school, the church. I think some people are confused that they think everything's closing. No. And that is clearly not the case. No. It is, and as of this point, St. Mary's High School, it has been announced that St. Mary's High School is proposed to close at the end of this current school year. Correct. Although Aaron and Dawn and several hundred other people are fighting desperately to keep that open. So just before the break, we talked about the difference between what a diocesan school is and what a parish school is. And thank you, Aaron, you laid that out very nicely. But when it comes to finances, so paying for, I'm going to be the outsider looking at it. So a diocesan school, if I understand it correctly, all the parishes and churches within the Springfield Diocese contribute to the Sunday collections, whatever it may be, which then the diocese farms money out to those schools within the diocese. Diocesan-run schools get more money than parish-run schools, and then the parish is responsible for financing and maintaining their own individual schools.
Correct. So we have... the parishes, you have your Sunday collection basket. Everyone puts in money, and approximately 7% of that is sent to the diocese for the general education fund.
So of the now, unfortunately, remaining 81 parish churches in the Springfield Diocese, 7% of every one of those collection plates for every Mass, every weekend,
Yes.
goes back to the Springfield Diocese.
For the general education fund.
For the general education fund.
And
Gotcha.
then they pay out from the general education fund a number of things. Teachers' health insurance, the percentage that is paid by the employer, that comes out of that money. And in addition, there is money given to the diocesan-run schools to supplement their budgets when the tuition does not cover the entire cost of the student's education. And we know that in Massachusetts, it's about $15,000 per student that is spent, and nowhere do Catholic schools charge $15,000 per student. So there is a difference. And so the diocese works with the diocesan schools to fund them and bring them to a level where they're able to provide for the students. And parishes are expected to be responsible for their own parish schools. If you have a parish-run school, then you would be looking at that. So St. Mary's, for example, we send our 7%, though I will say the diocese is finally looking at dropping that number down or getting rid of it if you have your own parish school.
Oh, okay.
That is something which we've been fighting for on the diocesan school board, that people are getting kind of double taxed, if you will, if you have your own school. So looking at changing that. But in St. Mary's, so we then have to send our money away and still cover our parish expenses. St. Mary's, for 120 years, has run virtually at a break even. Okay. We have very rarely had to take sums of money from the parish. About 8 years ago, the parish gave the school a loan, which the school paid back, actually, over time, of approximately $70,000 to $80,000. In addition, there is support given per student. For example, if you're a parishioner, you pay a parishioner's rate, and the parish does kick in $1,000 towards that student's tuition.
Right.
And then lastly, because the parish owns the buildings, we do receive funds for some of the building needs. Right. So approximately $50,000 a year comes from the parish to the school. So about that is the number. So if you get the tuitions that we get, $1,000 per student, plus about $50,000 all we receive from the parish. So we really virtually run on our tuition and our fundraising.
Right. So with the current 80, 85 kids, plus the other 50, you're talking 135 grand a year, give or take.
Yep. And
the rest of the money to run the school, which, if memory serves me right, it's what, about $1.2 million to run the high school?
Yeah.
So $1.1 million.
We're looking at tuition and fundraising.
Tuition and fundraising.
Now, diocesan schools, they have that general education fund. They pay out the teachers' insurance, and then they're sitting on a larger sum of money. And diocesan schools come to the finance board of the diocesan school board with their budget and say, okay, this is what we're going to need to go from what we expect in tuition to what we actually are going to have to pay out this year. Right. We need you to fund the rest. So the diocesan schools, there's a diocesan school in Pittsfield, North Adams, St. Stanislaus Costa. It's an elementary school. There was St. Joe's in Pittsfield. There is St. Michael's Academy in Springfield. And those are the only 3 diocesan schools. There is also Pope Francis. Pope Francis is technically considered now an independent school. And when it was formed, the bishop set it up as an independent school with an empowered independent board. However, it still does receive the funding from the diocese.
Gotcha.
I hope you got it, because I don't.
It's interesting. It is a little bit overwhelming, but the bottom line is, every parish in the diocese participates in the overall diocesan school fund, yet the parish schools kind of sound like they're being shortchanged a little bit, because not only are they sending money to the diocese, they also have to then support their own schools. Right. The question, though, is, or two real questions coming out of that. You said the diocesan general education fund goes to pay teacher health benefits and so forth. Does St. Mary's benefit from that?
We do. Our teachers do.
Okay, good.
Our teachers, yes. All the teachers, all the schools. That's all Catholic school teachers.
That's not separated parish versus... Okay. And then the other question is, so 93% of the collection plate on the weekends goes back to St. Mary's.
I'm not going to say that for sure because I think that some of it still goes to the diocese for other funds.
Oh, okay.
So there are other obligations that they have to pay out of that money. I just know that 7% is the education obligation.
Gotcha.
All right, they do pay, and there's a fancy word for it, like Catholic drama. I don't know the word. It's Latin. It's not my fault. I don't know it. Don't look at me like I'm stupid. It's drachma.
Don't hurt yourself.
It's an old word. And that's what they're required to send to the dice. And that funds a number of different things. So no, they don't get to keep 93%.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So there's other things in there.
So
we're going to take a quick break because your partner in crime here, Dawn, went out and recruited somebody. So it's 6:31 in the morning. You listen to the Westfield News Radio Show. We're going to take another quick break. It's Thursday, March 29th, about 38 degrees, getting up to 54 today. Cloudy and rainy. We'll be right back.
Programming of WSKB is provided by Bayside Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. Visit on the web at baystatedental.com. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
He rules the roost on Thursday from 6 till 10. It's Patrick Berry.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Berry.
Good morning again, everybody. 6:36 a.m. 30 looks like it's 34 degrees now outside your door, getting up to 53 and cloudy, and going to be some rain kicking in about lunchtime, and then going into the evening hours. It'll taper off late night, and then come back again early morning, and then taper off fairly quickly tomorrow morning. So by lunchtime, early afternoon, the rain should be over. And tomorrow, 56 degrees. After we get through today and tomorrow, it looks like a beautiful weekend. Saturday, March 31st, sunny and 58 degrees. Sunday, April 1st is Easter Sunday, sunny and 48 degrees. Could be some brief showers early morning before daylight on Sunday, and then but a nice and cooler Easter Sunday. Monday, as you head back to the school and work week, 52 degrees and partly cloudy. So that's what's going on at 6:37 in the morning. We took a quick break there because Dawn decided to run out and grab a guest. And Dawn, who do you step up to the mic? Dawn, come on.
Yes.
Who do you have with you?
This is Vicki Gargan. Vicki is a junior at St. Mary's.
Good morning, Vicki.
And she's a wonderful spokesperson for St. Mary's.
Okay. So, Vicki, give us a little bit of background. So, Dawn just mentioned you're a junior in high school. Give us a little bit. Where'd you grow up? What elementary schools, middle schools did you go to?
I grew up in Springfield. I still live in Springfield in the Forest Park area.
Okay.
I've been to Catholic school my whole life. From kinder to 8th grade, I went to St. Joan of Arc in Chicopee. Then my freshman year for high school, I went to Holyoke Catholic. And then sophomore year, they combined with Cathedral for Pope Francis. And around after April vacation, I transferred to St. Mary's.
A year ago.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we haven't had April vacation yet.
No.
So that's interesting. So you will be a 12-year Catholic school student. Mm-hmm. So welcome to Aaron and my world. So, but you've led an interesting path. You currently live in Springfield. You went to Catholic school over there, Holyoke Catholic, which then merged. So why did you choose St. Mary's of Westfield versus just staying with Pope Francis?
I needed a different environment. I think personally, I needed somewhere where I kind of needed a fresh start, I think. So St. Mary's, I'm surprised they took me in so late, but they took me in, and I've never been happier. Really?
Oh, and why is that? Why is it small school? What makes it so much better? Why are you so happy?
I mean, it is a small school, which I don't see as a bad thing. I wouldn't mind a bigger school, but it's not a negative at all. It's just the people, like the quality of the people that are there, the teachers, the kids, the staff. Everybody there is just always welcoming, friendly, and they're all there for each other. They all support each other. It's one big family.
Now, how many kids in your junior class?
11.
11 kids in your... So, well, I want to say, Jesus, my junior class at St. Mary's had to be 55, 60. So it's a big difference. And I bring that up because even when my class was that large, I knew every one of my classmates, all of their siblings, their parents, so, and I'm sure you're in the same boat. So the 10 other kids, the 10 other kids in your class, are you very close with them? You get to know them all fairly well?
Yeah, I would say I know them well, and even underclassmen, upperclassmen, everyone knows everybody.
So now what are you most fearful of going into your senior year of high school?
Having to restart all over again, get to know new people again, and I'm kind of worried about credit transfers and things like that, or credits that I have to make up, because I only have 1 year left, and I was really hoping to graduate from St. Mary's, and I still want to, especially because I've started, people know me now and like for sports and everything else. I don't think I'll get the same shot at other schools.
Which sports do you play?
I play soccer and lacrosse.
Soccer and lacrosse. Very good. Fall and spring. Nothing over the winter?
No, I used to do indoor track, but
Oh, okay.
they don't have a track team.
Exactly.
We tried to get her to ski.
That's right. Ski team. Ski
Yeah,
team. They didn't have
yeah.
ski team when I was there.
I know. My son skis.
I know.
And I know that they were looking for some girls, and she had mentioned they tried to get her to ski, and it's a lot of fun.
Why not?
I would probably break something.
Too funny. So now, if St. Mary's High School in Westfield closes, where are you going to start school in September?
I haven't really decided yet. We don't have an answer yet, which is why we're kind of up in the air, because we don't know. Some schools start payment like next month, like you have to start paying for the next school year. So we don't know if we should just send in an application for other schools or if we should just wait. And it's kind of hard because there's not many places to go, especially because if I went to public school, it would be a huge change, not only like in the environment, but also in my academics and my athletics. Like I probably would have to take up time of classes to like make up like a phys ed
credit, exactly.
Yeah, or an arts credit. A lot of schools have that too, and I've never taken an art class. I've had the opportunity, but I replaced it with science classes because that's what I like. So I think, the options are slim, especially because many of the other private schools are expensive or they're too far away. They're in like Connecticut, Southern Connecticut.
Would you consider one of the Springfield public high schools?
No.
No. So that limits your pool of
Yeah.
where you can and want to go. So did either of your parents, were they Catholic school kids?
My mom was.
Very good. All the way through, huh? And through college, Mom says. Wow.
That's dedication.
She's better than us.
Yeah, she's got us beat.
I think I drove by a Catholic college once, but anyway. So that's another good question. So what do you see yourself doing a year from now? So when you go to graduate high school, have you even started thinking about college plans yet?
Oh yeah, definitely. Since freshman year, I've had running colleges list, and I'm looking to apply to ROTC at all of my colleges.
Very good. Good for you. And why that path?
I've always enjoyed helping people. That's like my big passion, like in general. So I want to be a doctor in one of the military branches.
Very good for you. Good for you. That's a lot of schooling after high school. Yeah. That's for sure.
Can I interject something?
Absolutely, go for it.
I know that as she's talking about transferring, we have as a school board been reaching out to the local superintendents and working with the local school systems to help with that transition for our students. And we know that there are school choice slots available in many of our public school communities. So we're hoping and have some meetings set up to try to make sure that St. Mary's students who want to go together, even if you are from a Springfield town and you normally may not get a slot as an 11th grader going into 12th grade in, say, Westfield, we're working with the superintendents to try to make that easier for our kids, knowing this situation. The superintendents in the local communities have been so open to talking about ways to make sure that credits are transferring so that there's less obstacles for our students. Religion class becomes a philosophy credit, et cetera, so that our kids are still able to all graduate on time without having their options slimmed down to just a few. We want them to be able to really, especially the 11 juniors, we want them, if they want to pick up in mass and go to one place, we want to be able to facilitate that for them so that they don't have to start over completely. They can still have that core group of them together as each other supports.
Well, because I know some of the initial concerns were specifically the 11th graders, never taking an MCAS test, some of the credit concerns we just talked about. Vicki, were those some of your fears, thinking when this announcement came up that, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to graduate next year because I'm missing some things?
Yeah, I kind of thought that because, like I said, I took a lot of, they're not electives, but I took AP science classes and was hoping to take a few more next year. And since I took those instead of like an art class or something like that, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to graduate on time, especially because if you need like 4 years of art, 4 years of gym, all these other things, I didn't know if they'd be able to waive them, or I didn't understand how it would work.
Right.
And then the other thing is theology, like those credits, I didn't know where they would go either.
So it sounds like you got a good group of people trying to figure that out for you.
Yeah. So it's even though we don't want to have this happen. We don't want our students to have to go to somewhere else. We are planning for them at the same time. I don't want people to think that we're so focused on keeping the school open that we're not making the plans for if it does have to shut down. We are still looking at all of those things. And I know that the faculty is also doing that. I know that Ms. Rigoletti, who is our interim principal, has been working closely on this issue, trying to make sure that the students, if they have to transition, have a smooth transition and the least disruptive to their educational process.
Good, because that's the most important part.
It is.
It really, I mean, it's sort of a cliche term, but it is about the kids in this instance that, you want to make sure they continue their education on the timeline that was originally set, and they don't get set back, and they're able to graduate on time with the classes.
Right. We're looking at an institution that's been educating for kids for 120 years, and we've got scores of alumni, and we've got future generations of kids at the elementary school and far beyond who we want to be able to educate, but we're not going to lose sight, because St. Mary's has always been about the individual and fostering that great potential in each individual student, and so we're not losing sight of that overall mission of the kids who are there now. We have our eyes on the past, we have our eyes on the future, but we're not forgetting the kids who are sitting with us.
So Vicki, let me ask you, when you and your friends get together, what are you guys talking about as far as the future of St. Mary's goes? I mean, you've heard a lot of the adults talking about it, but what do you guys talk about?
Everyone's kind of disheartened, I think, because especially the juniors, because they want to graduate from there. Some of them I know have been to St. Mary's like their whole lives, or for a very long time. They came up through the elementary school. And a lot of people, I think, are scared to go to public school because they don't know exactly what to expect because they've never been to public school.
Right.
I know one of the sophomores just transferred there like a few weeks ago.
Transferred where? To public school or to St. Mary's?
No, to St. Mary's from, I think, Westfield Tech. Yeah.
It's funny. I did hear that story that a sophomore from Westfield Technical Academy transferred to St. Mary's
less than a month ago, I believe.
Yeah.
Less than a month ago.
Which, when I heard that story, was mind-boggling to me, because why would they allow that student to transfer in? At least make up some excuse, saying, sorry, the transfer window's closed. Yeah. Do something. That was kind of odd. Mm-hmm. But I feel for that kid and those parents, because they got put in a position that's just...
He spoke up at the announcement that the school was closing. He actually was one of the students, after only 3 weeks of being at St. Mary's, who stood up and praised the school about how in 3 weeks everyone has just rallied around him and he's been accepted. And not saying he wasn't accepted at another school, but just to see a kid's passion within 3 weeks for that school, that just shows who St. Mary's, who the kids are, and who the staff and the students, they really are.
So Vicki, I come back to you. I mean, do you feel that same way, like Ms. Erickson just said, about the camaraderie among the students, whether it's just 11th graders or the students above you in class or below you in class? Is there a good camaraderie among all of you?
Yeah, it's definitely not just within one class. It's the whole school, even into the elementary school, 7th and 8th graders. We know a lot of them. They'll play sports with us. It's a really great community because everyone's got each other's backs.
Now, it's interesting because, when I went to St. Mary's High School, it was the same way. I knew all the kids in the grades older than me, the kids in the grades younger than me, and it was a big family. I talked to my two daughters. One who's already out of Westfield High School. The other one's a senior at Westfield High School. And if they knew 25% of their class, or maybe 40% of the whole school, I would be impressed, because it's just such a magnitude of students. But in a situation like St. Mary's, you get to know everybody. You're interacting with them in sports and whatever drama or whatever other things that you're involved in. How do you feel that those interactions with the kids above you and below you, how do you feel that that's going to help you or hurt you as you go through life?
Going through life, it gives you the sense of, I think, you learn how to work with other people, even in bigger situations. Like, you take it from a smaller scale, and once people leave St. Mary's, they never really leave. Like, everyone still knows each other. They keep in contact. They've had alums come back all the time. And we even know alums from just because they come in so much.
That's funny.
Yeah. Or like some of them came with us to a field trip in Washington, D.C.
Oh, good.
And it's just, I think going forward in life, it's a great background to have because of all the values they instill in you and all the skills that they bring out in you that you didn't even know you had.
So now, if if you could say one thing, because I think you got to head to class. If you could say one thing about St. Mary's, what would that, if you could get one message out to the people listening, what would you? Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot, but this is a chance.
No pressure.
And again, Vicki, because you're an interesting guest here because of your background. You're not from Westfield. You chose St. Mary's over Pope Francis. So you really got a different perspective than, say, an Aaron or I who grew up in Westfield, did 12 years at St. Mary's. You come to it with different eyes. So there's something out there that you see in this school that we might not see.
I think, if anything, I wish I had started there earlier, maybe freshman year. Although I did have a good freshman year, but it's almost indescribable, I think. It's to that point of anyone you talk to there loves it because of what it is, because of the kids, because of everything. I mean, we don't even have locks on our lockers. Like, that's how much everyone is just, it's a phenomenal place to be, for real. And I can't really word it any other way.
That's good, though. That's good. So it's 6:52. We do need to take a break. We went a little bit long that segment. It's 6:52 in the morning. It's Thursday, March 29th. About 35 degrees right now outside your door and cloudy, getting up to about 55. And we'll get some rain later today. We're going to thank some of our underwriters. We'll be right back.
Stand in the place where you live. Where you live, wonder why you haven't people. If you are confused, check with the sun. Carry a compass to help you along. Your feet are going to be on the ground. Your head is there to move you around. So stand in the place where you live. Now face, think about direction, wonder why you haven't now. Where you were, now face, think about the place where you live, wonder why you haven't. Your feet are going to be on the ground. Your head is there to move you around. Wishes were trees, the trees would be falling. Listen to reason, the season is calling. Stand in the place where you live. Direction, wonder why you haven't now. Stand in the place where you were. Now face, think about the place where you live. Wonder why you would be falling. Listen to reason is calling. Your feet are going to be on the ground. Your head is there to move you around. So stand. Now face, think about direction, wonder why you haven't now. Stand. Now face, think about the place where you live, wonder why you haven't. Stand in the place where you live. Now face, think about direction, wonder why you haven't now. Stand in the place where you were. Now face, think about the place where you live, wonder why you haven't. Stand in the place where you are. Stand in the place where you are. You stand in the place where you are. Your head is there to move around. So stand.
Support for community programming on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. Visit bettsplumbing.com or 14 Coleman Avenue, Westfield. Public welcome.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com. With the Xfinity Double Play and Xfinity Triple Play, you can choose to bundle Comcast services for a great value. Experience Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Explore all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area on the web at Xfinity.com. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Wally Computer Associates, one of the largest technology providers in North America. Headquartered in Southwick, Wally provides all of the products and services that you'd expect from a world-class technology partner to schools, colleges, businesses, as well as state and local governments and agencies. Wally Computer Associates, meeting all of your technology needs. On the web at WCA.com. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Baring.
Welcome back, everybody. 6:57 a.m. We are live down at the Tigers Pride, or it's a Tigers
Pride.
Tigers. I always confuse it. Tigers Pride restaurant at Westfield Technical Academy.
You're home for a while since, somebody remodeled the Westfield News building.
I know. I had to actually stop and buy a coffee this morning on my way in. Usually I give my guests free coffee at the press room, but
the coffee hasn't come out. Usually there's carafes over there, but
I know.
we haven't started.
Well, Aaron's been down to my office since it changed over. We were sitting basically where the cash register used to be.
Yeah, right.
So, but we are going to jump now. Dawn is frantically making notes of something. I'm not sure what, but we're going to...
All the great things the auction has.
There you go. So, and that's a good segue, Dawn, because we mentioned early on in the show that a week from Saturday, April 7th, is St. Mary's annual fundraising auction.
Yep.
Let's go back a little bit in time. What was the auction, and how is this Saturday or next Saturday's auction going to be so much different and better than old auctions?
Well, first of all, I will say the old auctions, they made money for the school, some money, but last year, my husband and I we kind of took it over and we put a little different spin on it. We mixed things up a little bit, and we doubled the proceeds last year. We went from $15,000 to $30,000, and then...
Why? What was so much better about last year?
Well,
she's a really good marketer. That's why.
That's for sure. But I think the old auction used to be, it was a school-based event, and it was run by advancement staff. So it wasn't the same energy that a volunteer group brings to something.
Right.
So we had a very nice auction, and it was a small event, and that's all it was meant to be at the time.
My history, and I've only been with the school 2 years. My history is radio and event planning. So I've done concerts for 20,000 people. So an auction, I was like, oh, this is great, and it benefits my my daughter's school, and I'm very passionate about it, and so that's what I wasn't familiar with. How I think I had been to one St. Mary's auction in the past, and I went in and said, hey, look, these are some things we could change up, do it a little differently. We brought in sports memorabilia last year. We brought in concert tickets. We brought in just different types of parties and stuff like that. And we tried to just bring in more of students and parents and make it really, really involved with the community-based event. So, as Aaron was saying, it was a school event. We said, let's make this a community event. Let's call people from the outside in.
So how many people are you expecting next week? Or do you not know?
I would say I don't want to judge the numbers by Facebook, but I would say last year we probably had 200 to 300. I would say we're probably going to have at least 400 this year.
And then
the buzz is crazy.
And where is it being held?
The auction is going to be April 7th. It starts at 5 o'clock. It's going to be held at 27 Bartlett Street, which is the high school gymnasium.
And you park and go right in the front door? Or do you go in the
right
back door?
in, purchase your raffle tickets. Okay. What we're doing is we're selling raffle tickets. The best deal is 40 raffle tickets for $20. And I can tell you right now, there will definitely be over, I don't want to say over 200, but definitely over 100, probably up to 200 items between silent auction and the the raffles. So there's something for everybody. There truly is. I mean, we start the silent auction at things for $50, you know, and I mean, last year we did have people bid on things for $50 and be able to take them home.
So what else goes on there? So is it just an auction? Is there beer and wine tasting? Is there food? Is there
well, that's why
dancing?
I have to keep making notes because there is so much going on. Okay, so first of all, we have, you know, it is presented by Westfield Bank. Westfield Bank does sponsor the auction.
So they're giving away fistfuls of 100, right?
Yeah.
Of hundreds, right? Good.
We do have beer and wine. That is, a lot of people say, oh my God, there's actually beer and wine there.
You're from the radio background. Westfield Bank isn't putting up one of those money booths, are they? Dang. That's next year, Dawn. Next year, Dawn. Right.
You know, we do have the beer and wine. We have a student whose family runs Holyoke Liquor Mart, so they have actually donated all the beer and wine that we will be serving at the auction. We have Keith Urban tickets. We have a trip to Nashville that includes a VIP taping of Pickler and Ben, the talk show. It's Kelly Pickler from, she was on American Idol.
Okay.
So her and Ben have a talk show. We have a pizza party from Latitude. They bring a pizza oven right to your house, and that's going to be auctioned off. We have a VIP Broadway experience to see Carole King, Beautiful, the musical, Sam Smith, Rascals Flats, Niall Horan, and if you don't know who these people are, ask your kids. They'll know who they are, and they'll say, Mom, get that for me. So we have, there's so much going on. There's so much.
So outside of the auction, what other fundraisers take place throughout the years, and how important are the fundraisers to the overall sustainability of the school?
The fundraising is huge. The school, again, I'm only 2 years in, but I can tell you the three main fundraisers are the auction. We do a golf tournament, and this year the golf tournament is going to be on June 9th at Toccoa Country Club. We're doing it on a Saturday this year because we feel, you know, a lot of times companies do them during the week. We're a student-based organization, so we feel that the students, the golf team, you know, even the younger kids should be able to participate in this. So doing it on a Saturday, it allows us to include them into the tournament. So we're having that. It includes lunch, dinner. You can get all the information on our website, stmsaints.org. And then there's going to be a beer and wine tasting. Myself and Matt Collins and his wife Lynn, they're going to be the other chairs of the wine tasting.
And when does that take place?
Well, this year we haven't really released any information, so I guess I'll pre-release it now. We're kind of going to mix it up a little bit and do it. It used to be a September event. It used to be held at a country club in town. We're totally mixing it up, and we want to do a giant alumni reunion weekend. I guess that really used to be popular with St. Mary's graduates. And as we've heard, you know, you kind of get that following with St. Mary's graduates. They don't go away. They're always coming back, you know? So, but we figured if we do it over Thanksgiving break in the school gym, we're bringing it back to the school gym.
Good.
And, you know, and again, really getting, you know, local businesses involved, sponsored. You know, and I do think that the auction and the wine tasting have the potential to make $30,000 to $50,000, you know, in sponsorships and in fundraising. It's 100%, you know, doable, especially after we've seen the support that, you know, that St. Mary's has.
That's sort of my next thing is, you know, because of everything that's going on with the school in the news, do you think that the support this year will be overwhelming and then it'll taper off just because it's in the news now? Absolutely not. Yes, it will be overwhelming because of what it has now. However, if we are able to stay in contact and really, you know, engage, and honestly, that has not happened in the past. But if we can engage the alumni. I went to the there was a meeting held after everything had happened, and someone said, "Well, we need a fundraiser. We need a giant fundraiser." And I almost started crying, like, "Wait, I've been working on this fundraiser a year," you know. But again, with the social media and advertising, whether it be newspaper, radio, billboards, TV, there's so many outlets to get a message across to people. And, you know, if you build it, they will come. And now this is what I believe, personally, this is what St. Mary's has always needed. A little bit of love, a little bit of media attention. It's the wrong way. You know, we don't want it to be because the school's closing. But, you know, look at how many people love St. Mary's. And it goes a long way. So, Vicki, before you head off to class, do you and your classmates and you and as a students in the school, do you guys get involved in the things that Mrs. Erickson is doing as far as like some of the fundraising? Like, so will you be there on auction night, or will some of your classmates, or will you guys be there for the golf tournament or the some of the other fundraising?
Definitely. A lot of times we will go and volunteer as, you know, guiding people around or selling tickets or things like that. I can't be at the auction because I have a Key Club conference, but I'm planning on going to the golf tournament, if we can bring my whole family, and my dad has some friends who want to go, and the company he works for might, I sent in a company what do you call those?
Request?
Like a sponsorship,
sponsor
to see if maybe that goes through, I don't know.
Good.
But, I don't golf at all, I've never golfed ever, but...
You can drive a cart.
Yeah.
Well, very good, very good. So it's 7:05. I'm going to let you go to class, and we're going to take another quick break. Is anything more, Dawn, we want to talk about before fundraising, before we head out?
Auction. Come on down. It is going to be a great event. It's a great community event. Saturday, April 7th, 5 to 9. Oh, we're also giving away, oh my God, the Gronkowski jersey. I completely forgot about that. One of our biggest fundraising donation items that we have. It's $10 per ticket, and it's an autographed Rob Gronkowski jersey. It's beautiful. We've been showing it off around town. We have tons of sports memorabilia, some SNL merchandise. If you want something for everyone, a family community event, you don't even have to buy a raffle ticket. Just come down and see what St. Mary's is all about and see what the community is all about and the St. Mary's family is all about, and you will not be disappointed. We'll probably, we'll show you a good time.
Oh, yeah.
As you can tell, Dawn's excited. So it's 7:06 in the morning. We're going to take a break, thank some of our underwriters, and we'll be right back.
WSKB's programming is generously underwritten by Whip City Fiber. Westfield Gas and Electric wants to help you decide where they offer gigabit speed Whip City Fiber Internet next. Turn your neighborhood into a fiberhood. Get on the list today at www.whipcityfiber.com. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University. This is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Barry.
Good morning again, Westfield, 7:11 a.m., Thursday, March 29th, 2018. Pete, you brought a tear to my eye remembering that intro for the 7 o'clock hour. You know, been working on that for 4 years, you know, finally remembered it.
I remembered it, yeah. Jogged my memory. It's been a while.
It has been a while, but again, you know, I use that song as my 7 o'clock intro just because it's a good, you know, it's U2. It's a good upbeat, kind of gets the blood pumping and so forth. And you know, and I think that the Save St. Mary supporters, they don't need anything to get them going this morning. But Dawn Erickson and Aaron Carey are my guests this morning. They are two of the folks of the many hundred that are supporting the saving of St. Mary's High School here in Westfield. Vicky, great get, Dawn. Well-spoken young individual. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with her. You know, I mean, she great. And again, an interesting background with her because of her schooling choices as she's gotten older. She chose St. Mary's over other opportunities, was at Pope Francis, and left there because of St. Mary's Westfield. So it's a great story there. But I gotta ask the question.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
You're ready. It's 80 kids, Aaron. Who cares?
What's 88?
It's 100 kids, okay? It's a tuition-based school, okay? People in Westfield, people in surrounding communities, we pay a lot in taxes. You know, we're preparing our kids to go to college, which is another expense. These 80 to 100 kids are going to have virtually no impact if they go to Westfield or Southwick or Gateway Public Schools or West Springfield or Holyoke or whichever, if they just disperse throughout the other area communities. So what's the big fight to save it? It's less than 100 kids. It is, I mean, you know, the first hour we talked about the close-knit community and so forth. You know, St. Joe's in Pittsfield closed a year ago. There's really no uprising out there. Who really cares that St. Mary's, I mean, not who, but why? Why should we care that St. Mary's needs to stay open?
Well, I think that we have to look at, when we're making decisions, not always like you said, the tax base and those kinds of numbers. Sometimes we need to look at lives, and we need to look at the good that's being done. You know, the Catholic Church, part of our mission as Catholics is to really spread our faith and to embed it into people. And St. Mary's does that in such a rich and deep way. And so when you start saying to yourself, okay, well, you know, is it important? I think so. I think when we look at the alumni and the impact our alumni have had in this town, in so many more towns, we create, you know, if it's 80, it's 80. If it's 120, it's 120. We create 120 amazing individuals. And they are going to have a much broader impact. Each one of those people is going to go on to impact lives. And it's that web. So by the church investing in these 80 people right now, and we hope it to be a larger number next year, they're really creating, you know, that what's the word? The little fracture that's going out and sending roots and shoots and all over. You don't know how many people you're touching. When you walk into a lot of Catholic schools, there's a sign about teachers. You know, teachers touch the future. And in Catholic schools, if you teach at a Catholic school, you touch the future for eternity. And I really do believe that our 80 kids are going to leave that building and impact the world. And I think that's the mission of the Catholic Church. The mission of the Catholic Church is to create people who are able to create a positive world for others. You know, so I think about you, I think about me. How are we impacting lives right now?
Right.
And is that worth the money? I think it is worth the money.
So you and I are sort of a little bit different just because of our upbringing in the 12 years of Catholic school. Dawn, you said earlier, you've only been involved for 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Your kids are really little.
Yes.
Okay. Why? Why do you
I think
care?
Hearing you guys talk, where can you go today other than a private school that says we have a 100% graduation rate? St. Mary's produces productive members of society, people that go out and do volunteer work and give back to their community. Aaron, the list at the city council meeting that you read off, again, only 2 years. I grew up in Agawam. I lived in Connecticut for a little while. The list of people that you named, I was sitting there, and they weren't even names. It was just
no.
Thank you.
The
Honestly,
people who were on that list, whether it be judges, city councilors, doctors, lawyers, whatever. You're like, wow. And again, that is why I'm hooked. I always say, the parents, you're stuck with me now, because I went into St. Mary's thinking, we're a working class family. We need an 8 to 2 schedule with an after school program that's affordable if we need it. And I went in and I'm hooked. I love the environment. I love the teachers. Everyone from literally the preschool straight through the high school. Hi, Mrs. Erickson. Hi, Mr. Erickson. They know who you are. The teachers know who my child is. Because I only have one there currently. But it's love, respect. You can hug students. You know, if a student is crying, you can give them a hug. You know, I watch my daughter give the teacher a hug at the end of the day. They can say happy birthday. They can have cupcakes. That is what I remember when I was a child. They can say the Pledge of Allegiance, and that is what I want for my child.
You know, and I do go back to that is the mission of the Catholic Church. Is to embed our faith and create strong Catholics. Mm-hmm. You know, we spend money to do that all over the world. That is part of, when we're donating to missions. What are we hoping to have happen? We're hoping to have strong Catholics in other countries, in third world why not have strong Catholics here? Why are we afraid to invest in that strong, positive Catholic relationship? And, Dawn's referring to, I spoke at the city council, and I literally sat with my husband, who is a St. Mary's graduate also, and in about 15 minutes, just thinking about the leaders of the Westfield community, the public leaders, looking at what leadership has come out of St. Mary's and affected the Westfield community, I had a huge list. Really, if you think about city councilors, if you think about past mayors, if you think about police chiefs, fire chiefs, we don't have a police chief, we think, but we have lieutenants. I think we have 3 lieutenants on the police force. Right. The number of deputy chiefs on the fire department, just Westfield public school leaders, public school nurses, public school business leaders. So many people were St. Mary's graduates that I had a huge list in minutes of people who came out of St. Mary's and went on to contribute in such a positive way to our community. And again, we're not asking taxpayers to fund this. We're saying to Catholics, don't you want to really touch the future in an eternal way?
So, go ahead.
Oh, I think, too, to touch on that a little bit, and one thing that I was born and raised Catholic, but one thing that I do love about St. Mary's, there are other families who are not Catholic. Look, I'm not the best Catholic, but, I don't go to church every week. However, I love the fact that I'm giving my child a foundation that they can touch on, saying a blessing before they have a meal. My daughter knows the Hail Mary. She was jumping on the trampoline last night saying the Our Father, and I'm like, you're 4 and you already know that. But to look around our school and to see how many different denominations there are, that is so important. So it's not just Catholic.
Well,
it's
Dr. Akinyele Lovelace sends his 2 girls there, and he's not Catholic.
But that's an interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we have Jewish families. I believe we have Muslim families. Yeah. We have so many different faiths that come together because St. Mary's provides a good foundation, no matter what faith you are.
So faith-based. So no matter what your faith is.
Yes, no matter what your faith is.
But how do the Jewish families or Muslim families? How do you? How does that work?
So all students take religion. Yeah, it's a great question.
All right,
Yeah,
I'm a Jewish kid. You're talking about Jesus. It's Easter
Yeah.
Sunday. That doesn't work.
Yeah. So families agree when they come to the Catholic values that we're going to teach, and they know that there are expectations that that they need to have their children willing to follow. So, for example, they would attend Mass. While at Mass, they can be an active participant, or they can be just an attendee. You know, so they're not required to do anything, but they do need to come and be a part of that community. But again, you don't have to make your first communion. Anyone could make that decision. So there's a variety of choices a family has,
right.
But it is still faith-based, and they are required to be a part of the faith community.
So here's an interesting question, though. If I didn't know that,
Yep.
how many other hundreds or thousands of people in the community didn't realize that it's open to all faiths? You know, I look at it, it's St. Mary's, it's a Catholic school. If you're not a Catholic, don't even apply, because it's not worth your while.
It's well worth your while, no matter who you are.
And there are many other religions that are far closer to Catholicism that are well aligned. So, you know, if you're a Lutheran, if you're an Episcopalian, if you are an evangelical, then 99.9% of what is happening in a Catholic school is going to be your own beliefs anyway.
Right.
There may be some, you know, little pieces that you're like, well, we don't quite do that this way. But for the most part, you know, religion overlaps in a large way. So it is faith-based for those families. It gives them an option.
Right. So circling back to the cost of the school and so forth. How do you get over that hump when you know, because Dawn, you talked about it. It's not a free school.
No.
You know, it does cost a family something to go there, to send your children there. So when you have the opportunity to speak to a parent and that's their objection, you know, it's like, geez, you know, I can't afford to send my kids there.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to get them over that hurdle?
Well, then we talk about financial aid, and we talk about where the family's need is and what the family's ability to pay is. So the diocese has a financial aid program that we encourage families to apply for first. And so families can go through that process. When they come back with the decision from the diocese, then we as a parish look at that and decide, and as a school, what else can we do to really support that family. We have a large number of families on financial aid.
So where does that money come from, though, to that delta between what they can pay and what the cost is? So, you know, who knows what they can pay, but if you say it costs about $15,000 to educate a kid, where's that come from? Somebody's got to come up with that money.
Correct. Someone does have to come up with that money. So first,
that's where Dawn's auction comes in.
Yeah, first, you know, if they receive it from the diocese, that's great. That comes out of general education funds. Money is set aside, you know, to help different schools in that way, different families, not the schools, I should say, families who apply. And then, yes, St. Mary's looks internally for the money. That is part of the reason that, you know, we fundraise, and we are always looking for ways to help, because we believe in Catholic education, and we want everyone who's interested to be able to take part. So we do our best as a school body to make that work for families.
Very good. It is 7:23 in the morning, Thursday, March 29th. You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show. We're live down at the Tiger's Pride restaurant inside Westfield Technical Academy, our home for the Westfield News and Thursday morning shows for the next foreseeable future. We'll leave it at that. We're going to take a break, thank some of our underwriters, and we'll come back with more St. Mary's talk.
Don't think me
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore at Westfield State University, right here in the Ely Campus Center. Whether you're a student, faculty member, or friend of the university, it's the place to shop. Everything from Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise to all of your academic needs. Offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Visit the bookstore on campus or online at www.westfieldstate.bncollege.com. Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Wally Computer Associates, one of the largest technology providers in North America. Headquartered in Southwick, Wally provides all of the products and services that you'd expect from a world-class technology partner to schools, colleges, businesses, as well as state and local governments and agencies. Wally Computer Associates, meeting all of your technology needs. On the web at WCA.com. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University. This is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM, Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Barry.
Good morning again, everybody. It's 7:30 straight up, Thursday, March 29th, 2018. 35 degrees outside your door, and from our vantage point, we got a little bit of sun out there, although that won't last too long. As we head towards the middle of the day, the clouds will creep in, and there's a 90% chance of rain today, about 0.2 of an inch, so not a lot, but just enough to be miserable. The rain will dissipate overnight and then kick back up again tomorrow morning before dawn, and then dissipate fairly quickly. So by midday tomorrow, Friday the 30th, should be, the rain should be over, and tomorrow's high is 56. As you get into Saturday looks like an absolutely beautiful day, 58 degrees, bright sunshine. There could be some late night or early Sunday morning rain showers, but very, very, very slight chance of that as we lead into Sunday, Easter Sunday, April 1st, and then bright sunshine and 48 degrees for the remainder of Sunday. Sunday night will be cool, down to 28 degrees, but then Monday, 51 and partly cloudy. The next chance of any sort of wet weather looks to be Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Highs in the mid 40s, and at this point, it's looking about 65% chance of wet weather for those 2 days. So the long-range forecast is really pretty much the same. So that's our forecast for right now. It's 7:31 a.m. We're live back here at the Tigers Pride Restaurant at Westfield Technical Academy. Aaron Carrier and Dawn Erickson from the Save St. Mary's High School group are my guests this morning. Thank you both for getting up early. I really do appreciate it. Dawn, well done recruiting Vicky, getting her down here. Before we went to the break, Aaron, I was asking you about, really why? I mean, who cares? When I look back, and it's funny because this past weekend I went down to Pennsylvania and I was riding with a buddy of mine who knows I spent 12 years at St. Mary's. He was asking me my opinion of the future of St. Mary's, and I said, I was the youngest of 4 to go through St. Mary's. When I started, it was mostly nuns. There was a sprinkling of lay teachers in there. By the time I got to high school, there were virtually no nuns. I think we had maybe a couple left, maybe in the elementary school level, maybe one in the high school. I just don't remember. But fast forward 35 years, everything's with rose-colored glasses. It's beautiful. But I can tell you, as the youngest of 4 going through, I fought my parents tooth and nail about going to St. Mary's. I did not want to go there. So again, fast forward, now I'm 50 years old. I look at, it was beautiful. It was fun. It was nice. And then my mother will remind me, about certain things. And again, I look at my generation and older about the experience there, the non-experience. My brother, who's 10 years older than me, you got your knuckles whacked. You were out of line. You got in trouble. It's not the same today. So I think it's a, for Vicky, who was here earlier, and some of the younger, your kids are going through that school in a different way than, than I went through. And you went through a different way than I even went through. And we're only 5 years apart. So how do you engage my generation or our generation and older who may remember St. Mary's as maybe not a pleasant experience, but more of a very strict experience. Again, the nuns, and we joke about it as Catholics. The ruler on the knuckles. No, that really happened. I mean, that's
not to me. I was a good.
But
student.
again,
Patrick, we had it worse because my cousin was a nun that taught at Cathedral High School.
Right. Well, and we had the experience growing up too. Was, if you did something wrong at school, you got it worse at school than you ever would have gotten at home. So because St. Mary's was a strict environment, but that was my generation. Your kids' generation is going to see it as a much more loving and welcoming and open community than we did growing up. So how do you engage those who are our age and older about, you need to get involved, you need to save this school because it's worth it? Or because I know, because I've had these conversations, there's a group of our generation who went to St. Mary's who are saying, who cares? It's 80 kids. The public school systems in our community, our area, are going to absorb that. It's nostalgia. Well, how do you engage them?
Okay, so now you got me kind of on two different questions.
That's okay.
You're
my ADD is kicking in.
Yes, it is. You got to stick to one thing, young man.
Young. What's in that coffee?
So if we talk about the discipline is kind of where this conversation started, I think that one of the things you said was that if you got in trouble at school, it was worse than at home. Now, see, my experience was if you got in trouble at school, you didn't want to get in trouble at home, because you knew your parents were going to back what happened at school.
I guess that's a good point, right?
If something happened, I did not want something happening at school because I had to go home to Gail. And Gail and George were not going to be pleasant if they got a call. And one of the things that I often tell parents is that while gone are the days of rulers and nuns, etc., St. Mary's does have, I think, parents who have the same committed values, and we do emphasize structure. And we as parents want our children to be raised with a level of structure in their lives and discipline that we know is going to make them better and more focused adults. And so my kids know that if they get in trouble at school, when they get home, they're going to get in trouble. And with the advent of communication being so, immediate, my son knows that if I get an email that he was fooling around in class, that he will not have electronics that very evening. And there is that great level of back and forth conversation with staff that you can have. And teachers know that parents have their back, and parents know that teachers have our back. That when we call up and say something is happening in our family and there's been a grandparent death, a puppy, a dog, an animal, all those, we know at the school that these teachers are going to love our kids.
They're going to recognize what's taking place at home.
And they're going to surround our kids in what they need emotionally and supportive. And at the same time, the teachers know that they can call us as parents and say, listen, I'm having some struggles in class right now. Not awful malicious things, but a lot of talking, a lot of fooling. And we're right there for them. So St. Mary's offers that kind of structure, which you don't always see now. And it's something which, parents to parent, we can talk about. We can say, okay, my kid's going over your house, and you parent them while they're there. And if they're out of line, you tell them they're out of line. There is a commonality that we invest in when we send our kids to St. Mary's that, I keep coming to that word community. We're all saying that this is what we value and this is what we want for our children. And that includes discipline and values-based education.
Well, in your professional life,
yes,
you have been in both environments. You've been in the private Catholic school education world and also the public school education world. There is, and Dawn mentioned it earlier, if in the private Catholic school world, if there's a student who's having an issue, it's not frowned upon to put your arm around that kid and go, it's okay, or let's work together, or, you know, happy birthday, or whatever the good or bad thing may be. However, in the public school world, you touch a kid, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So is the private, I'm having a hard time phrasing the question. Is that a good thing that in the private school world you have that closeness between a teacher and a student where, you know, they can not interact, but where they know more about the student versus, I think, you know, public school, you're a number, you really are.
I mean, I think that in the public school world, we do everything we can to try to personalize kids' education. And, you know, I would say my students aren't numbers. However, I have a far larger number of students that I'm actually able to build a relationship with. So, for example, there's, you know, 250 students that I'm working with. I probably have relationships with 30. You know, right. That, and the other 220 don't need me as much. At St. Mary's, regardless of whether you need that person, they're there. Right. And so the day that you need them, you already have a relationship built. And when you call upon that relationship, it's there and strong. Right.
So now circling back to my other question, how do you engage my generation in St. Mary's? How do you get them involved?
Well, I think that you know, that's something that we've struggled with at St. Mary's is reactivating our alumni and having them involved. You know, there are a huge number of us who have our kids there. And I will tell you, I remember when my son, you know, started at St. Mary's, going to open house for the first time, walking into the room, and it was like, you know, of his 20-something kids in his class, there were like 8 of us who all knew each other and had gone to St. Mary's. Right. You know, so those of us who have kids there, we're actively engaged. We need to get better at pulling in the alumni who have moved away and connecting them. And I think that we have not tapped in well to social media, et cetera, to do that. And it's something that the Catholic Church in general needs to work on, is re-engaging Catholics who have lost touch. So
that brings up a good question. Dawn, for the fundraising, is there a... I mean, I know. I look in the back of my yearbook from 1985, and there's a list of every kid, their home address, and everything. Is there a database that the school has, whether it's for fundraising, for recruitment, for whatever, that you know of where everybody is, or at least a starting point?
There's a starting database that they're building. Okay. They're
just building it now.
Last year, finally kind of got into this after much prodding and pushing forward to say, listen, we need to do this better, we need to do this. And we're looking at a couple of systems that are working in other communities, having class captains, et cetera, to try to build that. And, you know, hopefully we're going to be able to do that in the coming years, because we really need to tap into that energy.
And that, with the wine tasting that we're planning on holding over on Thanksgiving break, when Matt Collins and I were kind of elected to head it, Matt has a really good relationship with a lot of alumni. And I came up with a theme of, what if we did a Where Are They Now? A blast from the past. What if we really dug into, you know, these alumni and said, hey, you know, let's make it a reunion. Have everybody come together from 120 years of St. Mary's pride coming together.
You know, it's funny, Suvi Amari, she and I had this conversation maybe a year ago, maybe last summer, that this was an idea being cultivated of make these sort of class captains. Yeah. So I volunteered one of my classmates, Joy Gates Keller. I go, Joy, you're now it. You know, so she lives in Munson or Palmer. Excuse me, I'm laughing because I'm. But anyway, it's funny. So, but I think that's a good idea. Engage, you know, getting classmates, getting a representative from each year to sort of. Then it's a small project. You know, Joy. I mean, of the 50 kids I graduated with, I would say on Facebook, I'm probably in contact with at least half. Maybe 30, you know, and Joy probably has more, you know, just because I don't have the time. But, you know, but that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
So,
and social media is a great place, but there's also people that aren't on social media, people that, you know, that would love to know what's going on at St. Mary's. And there has to be an avenue that we can reach out. You know, even something like Constant Contact is a great way to reach people. You have their email, you send them a newsletter every 6 months or every quarter, just saying, hey, you know, here's who went to this college, you know, Springfield College, here are the kids, or, you know, just to really reach out and touch people.
So here's a funny story for you, and I'm going to use my wife for these two examples. She grew up on Long Island, and she went to this private school up until 8th grade, I believe. We still get things in the mail from them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've now moved.
follow her, yeah.
My grandfather is 90, and he still gets letters from Suffield Academy.
Yeah.
90 years old, and he went to Suffield Academy.
My wife went to Tulane in New Orleans. She still gets stuff. I've never once gotten a piece of information from St. Mary's.
Yeah. And that's our fault.
But
our
again,
fault.
it's that sort of thing
And
where
you're here.
Right. You got to constantly engage and keep in contact.
And I think that if you talk to our alumni, they're still very invested. Maybe not in the building, but they're invested in the family that they made while they were there. That is still a very important part of many alumni's lives. And with the advent of social media, Facebook, all of that, we're very still tied together. It was a sad event, but a number of years ago, one of the alumni from my class lost her husband very suddenly. And we're young. No one expected this. My generation, you don't expect this to be happening. And the call went out immediately. And we had probably, of my graduating class, which was 39 kids, I would say we had probably 25 come together to go. And there was never any question, we're family.
Right.
And if you hadn't seen each other in years, or if you hadn't seen each other in a week, we were a family, and that 4 years was really a time in your life where you become who you are as an adult. These are the people who helped you become that person.
Absolutely.
They are part of the forces that melded you into who you were. Right. And so when the call goes out, I think St. Mary's people will tell you, we are family. Right. We are tight. And even if it's not day to day, week to week, year to year, there is an underlying bond that you do not see in other places. And so that's part of what you've seen recently.
Right. And I will tell you, neither of my kids have experienced that same sort of thing at Westfield High School. It's a necessary evil for them. You got to go to high school. You got to graduate. To move on. They don't have that sort of camaraderie among a group of their classmates. They have a handful of friends, but that's about it.
Yes, classmates versus friends. You have friends when you're in a public school, and I think that St. Mary's, it does create a classmate family group that just sticks with you.
Right.
You know?
We're going to have to take a break soon, but before we do that, Dawn, if you are planning, whether it's you or somebody else, you guys are planning a Thanksgiving get-together at the school, you've got to make that soon, because flight schedules, costs, you know, people, because it's funny.
It will start on April 8th when I'm done with the auction, and my husband is not going to be happy when he finds out I'm doing this.
You know, it's funny. Talk about where are kids now? Seattle, Washington, St. Louis, Missouri. I have one of my closest friends. I don't know where he is, but he works for the government in a way that he can't tell me where he is, which is kind of
great.
I'm like,
that's
gotta
so
tell
cool.
me, right. But nobody knows where he is, you know. So it's interesting. But I mean, we're all over, you know. We're doing good things.
But that's why we're also looking at Thanksgiving, because that is a time when people come home to parents, to family, to larger events, and we want it to coincide.
And open a high school. Let us walk through it. You know. Yeah. I want to see if my name is still etched in. No, anyway. It's 7:46 in the morning. You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show. We're going to take a break. Thanks to some of our underwriters. And when we come back, Erin, we're going to talk about what you guys are doing, the plan you put in place to save St. Mary's.
Okay.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Commercial Distributing Company of Westfield. Now in its third generation of family ownership, Commercial is one of the premier beverage distributors of Western Massachusetts. The Plasek family and the staff of Commercial Distributing wishes you good times throughout the year and urges you to drink responsibly.
Support for community programming on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. Visit bettsplumbing.com or 14 Coleman Avenue, Westfield. Public welcome.
Underwriting for community radio is provided by the YMCA of Greater Westfield. Every day, the YMCA strengthens the community through programs and services focused on youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. For all the Y's many programs and services, visit us on the web at www.westfieldymca.org. The YMCA, 67 Court Street in downtown Westfield. We're more than a gym. We're a cause. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Barry.
Good morning again, everybody. 7:52 a.m. Next week on the old Westfield News Radio Show, Westfield City Engineer Mark Crosati is coming on. There's a lot of things. Construction season is starting, so there's a lot of things underway now. The Ridgecrest sewer construction is starting. There's road work that's going to be being undertaken soon. So Mr. Crosati will be on next Thursday, and we'll talk about everything that will take place in the city over the summer. There's going to be a lot going on.
We're filling potholes right now.
Which, don't even get me going on that.
I drove down my street today and the potholes filled. I was thrilled.
But the thing that drives me nuts
very
is
excited.
Everybody's complaining about it. March is the worst. Every year, it's like a handful of guys working a truck. They can't get out there quick enough, and the potholes they're like breeding like rabbits. You can't fill them fast enough. Anyway, and it drives me nuts when people complain. But okay,
yes,
you're on the spot, Carrier.
Okay, I'm ready. Go.
What has the Save St. Mary's group done? What plan have you guys put together to save that school?
All right, so the Diocesan School Board. I'm sorry. I'm mixing up my boards. The Parish School Board, in conjunction with the Finance Council, met with the bishop. The Pastoral Advisory Council attended also. But we were able to, prior to our meeting last Saturday, put together a presentation for the bishop with some parameters for Saving St. Mary's. And we have, in that proposal that we gave to the bishop on Saturday, we had a financial stipend paid by the diocese for next fiscal year.
And what's their fiscal year? July 1st, June?
Yeah, it would be the next school year.
Okay.
The next school year. We also asked for funding for transportation. The students who come to us from Holyoke, from Chicopee, from West Springfield, one of the things that they need is to get to us. And we really feel that for working parents, transportation is a huge issue. Currently, the diocese does pay for transportation for another school, and we asked for reciprocity in a proportional manner.
Okay, so what's the dollar figure you guys have asked for the diocese for those items?
We asked for our transportation contract to be funded. It amounts to a little under $100,000 for our transportation contract. It uses 5-star vans, our van pool. And we also asked for $300,000 from the diocese.
So a total of $400,000 from the diocese to fund a few items.
Yep.
And to give you how much time to save the school?
We feel like that's a bridge. If we have that bridge, then we would be able to meet numbers, and we were able to tell them what we felt we could have for enrollment going at this time next year, what our numbers would look like.
So that would be a bridge for 1 year to help?
A payment from them for 1 year, and we agreed that we would not ask for any extension after that 1 year. In the past, other Catholic schools that were working on a turnaround plan had 3-year plans.
Right, like St. Joe's in Pittsfield had a 3-year plan.
Yes, to the tune of $2.6 million.
I was going to say, and significantly more. Right?
Yes.
But that was a diocesan school.
It was a diocesan school. They were used to being funded by the diocese.
Okay.
But yes, we have never been funded by the diocese. So this is
to that amount.
The only money we've received from them are really grant money. We've received part of the Future of Hope grants.
Right.
But again, that's in proportion to our enrollment and the other Catholic school enrollments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So aside from financial support, what other items have you requested from the diocese? Anything?
We were looking for an empowered school board. So we talked earlier about a consultative board, and we would like our board to be empowered to make decision makers on a larger
all
scale.
All the boards or just the school board?
I think that would be something that the bishop would have to look at for other parishes too. So we were looking at our school board being empowered to make more decisions.
Okay.
And we were looking at some directives from the bishop to other parishes regarding our ability to recruit. So, for example, we want to be able to go and speak, at a mass, after the communion, for just 2 or 3 minutes to parents, having that ability to go to local parishes, getting ability to send things out and put things in other parishes' bulletins, because each pastor has control of its own parish or his own parish. And so, we would like the bishop to say, no, we want you to embrace the recruitment efforts of St. Mary's, because that hasn't always been the case. Some parishes are great and some parishes are very supportive. Other parishes are not. Other parishes are kind of making some decisions for the students in their care, and they're choosing which school they want to embrace, and it might not be us. So we would like a little more of a level playing field, and we feel like the bishop has to set that tone we're hoping as part of the upcoming Commission on Faith and Pathways to Faith, that's going to be an aspect that will become universal in our diocese, that we're looking at Catholic schools not pitted against each other, which has been the past practice, but really working together, pastors, schools, families.
And now that it's down to really two high schools, two Catholic high schools in the diocese. Pope Francis High School, east of the Connecticut River, St. Mary's West. The Connecticut River is a good dividing line, although there's probably some kids from Chicopee. Vicky from Springfield.
Yeah.
There are probably some outliers that want maybe from that side
I
of the
think
river.
That's a smaller number, but I would say Holyoke and Chicopee, we're actually closer to a lot of families. If you're living in Chicopee, you can be at St. Mary's up the pike.
Half an hour.
Oh, you can be there in 15, 20 minutes, really, no problem. A lot easier than going, to Pope Francis when it moves to Surrey Road. Or I think they're not calling it Surrey Road, Wendover. Wendover? What is the street? Pete,
I think the building is now in Wendover.
Wendover, right.
But it's still the same campus it was,
the same exact campus. I think they just put the front facing the different direction.
The footprint is a lot different now, too,
Right. So we are more accessible for some of those families. But again, transportation is a big issue. If you're a working parent, if you have transportation to pick up your child at a central location, at your local parish school that you used to attend for K-8, and now they bring them to St. Mary's, that's it's a big advantage.
One of the things that has been mentioned to me about parish schools is you have these pastors, these priests like Father Frank, who probably got into the priesthood because he wanted to preach the gospel.
Yes.
Okay, but he's now in a position where he may not be trained for, and probably the bishop's not even trained to run a business. And you're talking the high school.
And to be an educational leader.
Right.
I mean, that's something I have a degree in because I
chose that path.
Chose that path. And so we often, I find, do that to people. They take a path that their vocation, their calling, and then they end up having to do something else that they weren't trained. I joke sometimes that I wanted to become an educational leader, and I remember one of the first days on the job as a vice principal being in a boiler room with custodians because the boiler wouldn't work. And I thought to myself, no one told me that I needed to learn boiler repair. And I stood with these gentlemen all dressed up in my high heels, literally on a dirt floor, going, I got no idea. Do whatever you want to do to the boiler.
Hold on a second. Hey, Craig.
Yeah, call my husband. Does this sound right to you? Because this is what they're talking about. I got nothing.
Right.
So we do this to people. And I think that, yes, the church and most businesses, we put people in positions that they're going, I have no training. I can't do this. And so, yes, I think Father Frank has done what he can with the skill set he came with. But he doesn't know schools. He doesn't understand education. And that's why we have a school board.
Pastor. I mean, he's there to preach the gospel.
And that's his training. training. And, we pull together these other people who have expertise in those areas. But then at the same time, the system that we have doesn't really empower people to use that expertise.
Right. Which, throughout this conversation, and you guys put together a proposal to the bishop to have an empowered school board, which, again, has sort of boggled my mind that wasn't the case leading up to this, that the school board wasn't a decision-making body, more of an advisory role. And you would think that, again, the members that make up the school board, yourself with the education background, and some of these other folks that are very knowledgeable in Rich Labrie, very knowledgeable.
Former superintendent of schools.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, these are people who, Dina Hall from the finance side, these are people who know what they're
Joe
doing.
Flahive, he was a school business manager,
Exactly.
built schools for the MSBA.
Right. So these are people who know the school business, for lack of a better description, yet had no power in St. Mary's for the most part, only except for an advisory role.
Yeah, advisory role. And, often we were listened to, and other times we weren't. And, I don't want to play a blame game.
No.
Because I think that everyone, everyone has wrestled with this. And I don't think there's anyone who's saying we want schools to close. But at the same time, sometimes decisions people are making are adversely affecting the well-being of our school system. And we need, as parents and as parishioners, to say, wait a minute, we can do better. We can do better. Let us get together and give us a chance to do better and be better.
So when will you know what the fate of St. Mary's High School is?
What time is it right now?
It's 8:02 Thursday morning.
I am saying that the bishop should be responding to us today. We know that tomorrow, today's Holy Thursday, we're entering, this is Holy Week, and we're entering the Easter weekend. I would not expect any news to be coming over the weekend. So my hope is that we're told by today. The bishop, when he left our meeting Saturday, said he would make a decision midweek. It is midweek. The diocesan office is open at 9. I will be calling at 9. I will be calling to just ask when we're going to be getting this decision. I am confident that it will come today, and I am cautiously optimistic that the decision will be one in which the diocese is stepping forward to help us. I have every faith that they want us to succeed, and that we've presented a plan that shows them that, yes, we can succeed with some support and then the ability to do what we all do best, which is create a great school.
And educate those kids.
And educate these kids to be good Catholics.
Right. Before we take off, Dawn, let's leave on another high note.
Yes.
What else? You mentioned off break. You said, I forgot to mention something
Yes,
about
I totally forgot. Okay, so first of all, the auction Saturday, April 7th, 5 to 9, St. Mary's Parish School High School, 27 Bartlett Street in the gym. One of the other big features that my husband and I brought in this year to kind of shake it up a little bit is we're actually having celebrity bartenders. And I would say our number one celebrity that everybody says, oh my God, I can't believe you have, is Demetrius from the Westfield Community Forum. He will be our celebrity bartender for 2 hours. We also have Kevin Johnson from Mix 93.1, Adam Stremko coming in from 22 News, Brett Provo from 94.7 WMAS. We have Monica Hanoush. We have Matt Emershy, who's a city councilor here. And we have another gentleman named Stevie from Hot 93.7 Morning Show. So we are going to have tons of celebrity bartenders there, tons of people. You want a community event, you want a fun time, come out Saturday, April 7th from 5 to 9 to the high school gym. And we'll show you what St. Mary's is all about and why it is worth saving.
And it's worth just coming to hang out. I went last year thinking I would go through, place my bids, and then head home
and cruise,
and be done. And at 9 o'clock, my kids were running around helping and passing stuff out. And I was over having some hummus and pita chips.
Yeah, we have food too from the Butcher Block this year.
And having a glass of wine at a High Boy. And I kept thinking, is this my high school gym? Because it doesn't feel like my high school gym.
Too funny. And before we leave, next week on the Westfield News Radio Show, City Engineer Mark Crosati, and then selfless, shameless plug, whatever they call it. The Westfield News has been following this story very closely for the last few weeks. I would like to say that we've done a better job than any of the other local media. Stay with us. We will know as soon as the Bishop Rosansky makes a decision. We will have that information put out to you quickly. So
we
please,
are very thankful. Very thankful.
No, it's what we're supposed to do here in Westfield. So. Dawn, Aaron, thank you both very much for coming on. I know it was early. We went a little bit long, and we all got to go to work. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving me 2 hours of your time, and then some, this Thursday morning. Hopefully you learned something about St. Mary's Parish Schools. Even though I spent 12 years there, I certainly learned some stuff today. And If you are so inclined to support St. Mary's, go down to the auction next Saturday night, April 7th, and support them financially. If not, say a prayer, go to church, and get out and save St. Mary's. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you on the air next Thursday morning.
There's no need to see me to the door.